Okay, so I work 6 days a week. I do have my private practice, and I also work at local acupuncture school, and I work at the place called Asian Counseling Referral Service. It's my presentation ACRS, and so that's where for the acupuncture school that I supervise students doing the clinic, and I also have a private contract with the ACRS treating the behavioral health client, and then the rest of it is that I do I do specialized acupuncture. I do clairvoyant some stuff, and then I help to NADA Japan to start. So we do have a NADA in Japan as well right now. That's the part of the reason I became NADA trainer and I went to Japan. And it took almost I don't know, I'm not exaggerating, almost 10 years to somebody to meet. Oh, NADA. I know maybe I don't think maybe United States right now it's no need to worry, but it's a lots of obstacles because Asian culture, specifically Japan, is very, very strict and there's so many obstacles and the discrimination against the so-called drug addiction because we don't have many drug addiction and gun control or whatnot stuff. And then so all the stuff is happening, everything's secret. Alcohol supposed to be happening. I call it functional alcoholics all over the places. But mental health is another thing. If you remember, we had a huge 2011 tsunami earthquake happening in Japan. There was no so-called mental health therapist available. And everybody has to, there's nobody available. I know my colleague was United States, they have to go to Japan to fly in to help them. And there's no therapist available, and then people again, alcohol is available all over the place. We can drink it from vending machine on the street and no problem. Lots of alcoholics, but it's not, of course, largely advertised. And then so there are a lot of hidden emotion. We are suppressed. Our culture. If you talk about emotion, you're shameful, and you should embarrassing. Just drink it next day, get rid of it just to go. But 20 years ago, 30 years ago, we had a huge earthquake near Osaka and Kobe, and people still having a suicide because of the nightmare trauma. And we cannot talk. We're so shameful if we say like, I'm still depressed. Like, I still depressed from there, get over it. And then otherwise people commit suicide. Yeah, drug addiction is such a shameful event in Japan. So I'm helping out. Like I have a friend, like even just the stress management, and there is the backfire from the mother and the children's group and in one place in Japan. Like, what do you mean we are stressed out? Are you labeling us? We are stressed out people. It is, but they don't want to be labeled. So they got angry. Like we couldn't do the treatment because of that. So it's like, oh my God, people. Anyway, it's very, very hard. It's still very small, but I'm, supporting what we can do to educate acupuncturists and other. They really have to work on the social justice if you think about it. But yeah, so I'm just doing both United States and Japan whenever I can, however I can, within my limit, of course. But local acupuncturist and an ear seed specialist, they're doing stuff and the obstacles. Here's the thing, the biggest obstacles, we call the NADA, like acu detox, like needles. In Japan, nobody's selling it. And they cannot. And somebody trying to send it, like a dozen box of like so-called ear needles, confiscated at the custom, returned to United States. So needle is one thing. They do have a bunch of acupuncture needles, but very, very expensive because they use that for facial acupuncture. It's not specifically so-called cheap, Chinese or Korean needles. They are not available in Japan. So I talked to one of the Chinese acupuncture company here in the United States. And then I told them, like, you guys really need to market in Japan. Like, yeah, we are working on it, but they are so strict. And they're like, okay. Thinking about before the social justice, even medical area is such a restrict. Like, why we can simply send the ear needles to Japan? It's like, come on. The emotional meeting I had with the one of the teenage kid. affected by the family member affected by the drug addiction. And I simply wanted to help him out. And knowing there are so many children like him all over the United States. And I didn't know where to go, but one of my friends mentioned to me about, have you heard about NADA? Like, what is that? I was still like a second-year acupuncture student. And he was saying like, oh, there's you can treat for quit smoking and ear needles. And they are doing other stuff too. That was like early 90s. And that's where I think NADA was really started to act, being active in it. So that's how I find out about the NADA. And then, okay, they are doing other, drug addiction stuff. That's something I want to know. And I was an acupuncture student. So other than just the general treating full body, there's a most like specifically targeting, substance abuse, drug addiction. It was really new to me. And I was still new to this country. I'm from Japan. So like, wow, what's going on? So that's how kind of jumping into NADA, like a kind of dried sponge. Like, I need to find out more. I was more passionate about like, I want to help this child that I didn't know what to do, but there's something I can do. To me, having a NADA's background is like, I know the so-called underserved community or low income, like those places, people label those things. I don't look at that way. I look at like NADA is there when nobody goes there, and somebody has to go there, and NADA is always there. And I see that kind of a situation being in Seattle too. Why not acupuncture? I'm an acupuncturist, so like most acupuncturists don't think about doing because there's no money actually. So it's, so who is going to go there? Who wants to go there? Who wants to volunteer? For example, like homeless people or like so-called labeled drug addicts, whatnot. So somebody has to be there. And NADA doesn't really care about it. We just look at the person as just a human, simply just need a help. And they happen to be having some issue. They need a help, and why somebody has to go. So we just go when needed. Dr. Michael Smith used to say, putting the needle is the simplest thing, easiest things you can do. But who is going to do it? Who has the heart to do it? And that's where we're being stopped in the bureaucratic or the licensure, which is, okay, we do need it. But I think that's are you willing to do it? That's the part like, I think people hesitate and I don't want to, like a kind of a stereotype and then like a kind of prejudgment, things like, I don't want to get in there. And I got so much, some information, like my colleagues, like, Sachiko, why you need to go to jail? Like, why not? I don't like all the conflict things and stuff. So I just been usually in the shadow, like being in the hiding, just I give you treatment. I'm just going to leave. Do you feel better? Great. That's why it doesn't matter. Did I make, am I the part of their life that make them feel better? Yes, it did. That's all matter. The first things comes to me was working in a correctional facility. That was my first NADA program job. That was right after I graduated from acupuncture school. And again, that was eye-opening to deal with so-called inmates. I'm laughing because like, wow, what a story that people tell me, and how much the NADA protocol. Okay, so I may just have to throw in something here. So this correctional facility was just a lot of DUIs, drug addiction coming, and freshly come, like I got just arrested last night and just came to this facility, and their withdrawal symptom is really severe, and coming to acupuncture for the ear needles and stuff. And then at the beginning, security guard is like, they're like, oh, you guys doing whatever. And then we are like, okay, we're just here, little Asian women doing some needles over here kind of things. But after the 5 years later, like, well, they're like, well, this is something working. Like, and all the counselor, even security guard was like at the beginning like this. But then like, oh, you guys need to go acupuncture. You guys need to stress reduction. I've never seen withdrawal symptom in my life and the people going through that. I thought that was happening only in a movie. And people having that severe good reaction of withdrawal symptom was like really like, oh my God, just a few needles. Like, I don't know how much I can explain to you here, but like, oh my God, good for you. You vomited. That's awesome. Just like profuse sweating like a faucet. Like, oh, this is called, wow, this is nice. Congratulations. So it was like instant. This is how much body can, of course, one treatment is not enough, but seeing such a physical impact at first sight, it was like just amazing. And then, yeah, that was nice. I did that for 7 years. Certain things we cannot see, everything we want to see things to prove it. But sometimes it's not all what we can see is the valid issues. Um, like I said earlier, like your heart is in there. Like, how do you measure it? And are you going to be there and assist? And of course, nada is like a non-verbal, but there is some kind of a communicative stuff, like a kind of a mutual agreement is happening. Yes, I'm ready to receive the treatment, or I'm ready to give you treatment kind of things. Yeah, needles involved, of course. There is a function of the certain points affect certain things, but it's very, even we're using the same points, everybody has a different feedback from the needle that's based on their experiences, what they're going through, what stage they're at to things to start moving. So yeah, it's a very unique system, and whole setting sometimes important, sometimes, but not really. And yeah, I think it's everything's affects everything.